Forever.
And now we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another video. This is your boy, Mr. CJ Talks Film today. I am here with my lovely co-hosts, Zion and Logan. What's going on, fellas? Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July, bro.
Zion, I'm loving the new background. It's looking pretty fly today, I must admit. Pun fully attended.
Today is the day me and Zion's lives changed forever. You're muted, Zion.
Oh, for real?
Oh, my bad. What's up, guys? I've been talking the whole time I was muted. I got out of the way if you can see the background better. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. What's up, Logan? What's up, CJ? I wanted to point out real fast, I'm yet to watch either films, Fast and the Furious or Hitman Wife's Bodyguard, but I came to support you, and I'm down to talk some horror films.
Amen. I just wanted to do a quick review on.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as I go live, my mom is calling me.
Wow.
So let me pause it for a second. I will be right back.
So, what's up, Logan? What's up, fam? Thank you, Jaden. What's up, Jaden? How you been, Logan?
It's been so long since we talked, bro. 7:15.
I know, dude. It's quite a while.
It's been a long 2 minutes, bro.
Yup. So, CJ's on the phone right now, fam. He'll be back in a bit, and then once he comes back, we'll get into that review of Fast 9, and he's gonna get into his review of Fast 9 and Hitman Bodyguard, and then we'll talk some horror films. Is your dad coming on today, Logan?
I think so, but I'm not sure.
Nice. Hopefully he can get on. How's your horror film knowledge? Because for me, I'll be honest, guys, I'm not the biggest horror film fan. Not that I don't like it, but if I'm gonna watch a movie, I tend to go watch an action movie, a comedy, a goofy comedy, more than I would pick a horror film. But that doesn't say I haven't watched my share for horror films. What's your knowledge of horror films, Logan?
I'm a huge horror movie fan.
Horror fan? Hell yeah. So that's perfect.
I just watched this. I told you about this. The Seventh Day on Netflix. It's such a good movie.
Okay, gotta go watch that.
It's basically a detective story of these two priests that need to perform an exorcism on this kid that's been like killing his family and stuff. So it's a good story.
Gotcha. What is it called again?
The Seventh Day.
Seventh Day. I have to go check that out.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day me and Zion's lives changed forever, bro. I'm gonna see this dude on a billboard in 10 years, on one of those boards in 10 years. What's it called?
Billboard.
Zion the rapper, bro.
Like we said, fam, TJ's on his phone with his mom. As soon as he gets done with his business call, we'll have this stream up and popping. I want to thank you guys all for joining in. Make sure you smash that like button. Let's get it, Logan.
Yes, sir. Yo, Zion, what's your rap name gonna be? I got an idea for you.
I was thinking of I had one for a while, but I'm thinking of changing it to just plain old style.
That's cool. I was gonna say Money Zion.
Money Zion.
I like it.
That's funny. I was New Sledge for the longest. Like if you go to my SoundCloud, I'm on the New Sledge on SoundCloud.
That's cool.
New Sledge with the money sign as the S.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, my franchise for my horror films, like I love those old school horror films and stuff like that. I guess we'll get into it when CJ comes on. But as far as like the newer stuff, like I'm down to watch it. I'm down to see what it's about. There's some good ones, don't get me wrong, but to be honest, guys, I haven't really in the time I spent watching movies, like I said, most of it is action, but I have a few horror films that I would like to mention, and I'd love to get into discussion when we do about that horror films. CJ's business call is back, is done, he's back. Let's get it. Just keeping your fans hosted until you return.
Thank you for holding down the chat momentarily while my mom is being a big pain in my behind right now, asking me questions that she should have asked me while I was at work. But having said all that, I am now getting ready to review two of the latest movies that I just finished watching, both Fast 9 and the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. two of my most anticipated films of this summer. And man, I really wish I could tell you guys that I absolutely love both of these films. But unfortunately, I
Bitch.
cannot. But unfortunately, I cannot go that far. I absolutely love one of these movies, and it's probably the funniest movie that I've seen in years. And the
Is
other
that
one
in
is,
Hitman's Bodyguard? The funny
and
one?
the other one is an atrocious hot mess, but I absolutely adored it. Fast 9, it's terrible.
Is
It's
it
really
is it a money
bad.
grab? Is it a money grab?
I wouldn't go as far as to
You
say
know,
it's
when
a
I watched the
money
trailer,
grab.
bro, when I watched the trailer, I was it's not that I don't like him, but I just don't like him in some roles, and I just think bringing him John Cena wasn't the smart move. So hopefully, maybe he had a good point in the movie. I don't know, but I just thought that was stupid when I seen the trailer, and I'm like, why the hell would they got? They could get anybody, but they got John Cena. Like I understand it, but at the end of the day, like hopefully it wasn't just a money grab, and hopefully there's at least something there. You know what I'm saying?
I'll say this much. Do I think would I go as far as to call this a money grab? Absolutely not. I do think they
Okay, that's
absolutely
good then.
try to make this, a fun, entertaining movie. And I think one of the things that you have to go into watching a Fast and Furious movie, particularly the ones from 5 through now, you absolutely have to suspend your belief.
Yeah.
Nothing they show you is going to make any sense. It's mindless, it's fun. Even the best Fast and Furious movies are like, seriously, guys. But the
Car
ones,
food.
pretty much, but uh, the ones that I thought that were absolutely magnificent had that balance between mindless action
And
and,
sorry.
yes, as well as story.
Mm-hmm.
This one, it tries to pull out certain things out of a hat, whether it's the action or a character reveal or a storyline, and it just absolutely falls apart in almost every way possible. First of all, let me just come out and say this again. Did I enjoy the movie? Absolutely. It's fun, it's ridiculous, it's outrageous.
Would you pay to see it again in theaters?
Honestly, probably not.
When you
But
mean it, I love and thank you so much. I really respect the fact and I appreciate the fact that you're keeping it spoiled free. And you're a man for doing that. So that's what's up, cuz I love that shit. Sorry for swearing. Um could you like in a way
like
of this franchise of
if I
movie
had to
nine,
give it,
could it have been
I had to,
spread out between three different movies and they just try to pile everything and shove everything into one that kind of made it a mess?
yeah, again,
Could it
they kind of did. They basically are trying. They're essentially trying to set up events that are going to take place in Fast and Furious 10, which
okay,
I
okay.
believe,
That's perfect.
which I believe is going to be the last one. But
Okay.
like I said, they try to do too many. They try to do too many different things at once, whether it's the comedy or the action or the actual
Mm.
story, and almost none of it really works. If I'm being completely honest, the only thing about this movie that really made it enjoyable is the character interactions. You absolutely adore everyone in this movie, from Michelle Rodriguez, Vin Diesel, Tyrese is phenomenal, Ludacris, um, even, and it's not a spoiler alert, it's in the trailer, but even
Mm-hmm.
the small cameo of Helen Mirren as the Shaw's mother, she's fantastic in the short role that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
But John Cena, my guy,
Ruined it.
I listen,
Bad.
listen. I love
Puke.
John. I love John Cena. I really do. I loved him as a wrestler, and I even find him entertaining as an actor.
To a point where the actor 100% agree. He was my favorite wrestler when I was into WWE. But as an actor,
He's terrible in this
puke.
movie.
Puke.
He's
Batista
fucking,
does a better job.
he's fucking atrocious in this movie. I'm so
Batista
sorry.
does a
He is atrocious in this movie. His body language, his facial expressions. The way he delivers his lines, he is so bad in this movie. It's borderline a comedy, if I'm being honest. And Vin Diesel, God bless him, this is by far his worst performance as Dom. Which really surprised me, because going back, listen, Fast and Furious, Fate of the Furious was so disappointing to me, but he was still really good in this movie. Here, it's almost like he's trying too hard to make the Fast and Furious franchise a Dom drama series, and that's not what this franchise is. This franchise is at its best when they're doing ridiculous, mindless action, and I swear I promise I'm not gonna give this.
It's at its best when you're hearing. No, I lost my track. Never mind.
but Zion, there is a part in this movie towards the very end where, as soon as it gets to the third act, I'm literally just sitting in my theater doing this. What the actual F are they doing?
Got you.
Vin Diesel, again, I don't want to give the scene away. I don't want to give the scene away. But there is literally a scene in this movie when Vin Diesel becomes the Hulk. I'm like, excuse me?
We've seen that. Without, you didn't really spoil anything, because we've seen versions of like that in previous films. What you're probably saying in this one is like times 10.
There again now, like I said earlier in the review, with the Fast and Furious movies, especially 5 through 9, you have to suspend your belief. If there is just a second of your mind that says this does not seem right, that this movie is not going to be for you. So I have suspended all belief with this movie, with this franchise.
Yeah.
But like I said, there is a part in this movie where Vin Diesel essentially becomes the Hulk. And he's literally just thrashing like 15 or 20 agents all at once. And I'm like, how do you go from being a street racer to
a straight up killer? Yeah.
And I'm like they jumped the shark like at least 15 times in this movie. And we went to the theater. It was me, my mother, my younger brother, and my best friend. And he absolutely loved it. He gave it, I want to say, like a 9 out of 10. I gave it a 6.5, and that's really only because the characters were great.
Where do you rank 9 in the film series? You can say near the bottom, near the top, in the middle.
It's better than Fate of the Furious for sure.
Ooh, okay, because a lot of people like Fate of the Furious.
No, Fate of the Furious didn't really work for me, and that was the one movie where the mindless action just didn't work for me. Here, the mindless action does still kind of work.
Except for
that one Vin Diesel scene where I just totally lost my mind. But overall, is it a fun movie? Sure. But you have to brace yourself that this movie is entirely ridiculous. It is fun to a certain extent, but you just gotta go in, pop open a big old thing of popcorn, suspend all your beliefs times 30, and just get ready to watch an atrociously bad movie, but still have a lot of fun with it.
That's a good way to put it. And to be honest, Fate of the Furious was good, but it didn't rank as near the top of the other films. Like CJ froze.
CJ is frozen.
CJ is frozen, stuck in time.
Another tip to watch a bad movie: you just get high.
That is true.
If
you're of age, of course. If you're of age. Yes, over the age of 21, and if your state is legal.
Logan, I think would love it, because it is so ridiculous and outrageous. But even if you're someone who's mildly entertained by dumb fun like me, then it may not be for you.
I feel you on that.
what was for me was the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. I
didn't really enjoy the first movie, to be honest with you.
I really enjoyed the first one. I thought Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson's chemistry was poetry in motion. But it does not compare to their chemistry in this one. This movie is balls to the walls, funny as hell. And Salma Hayek, my God, first of all, I've had a crush on Salma Hayek since her Dust.
Salma Hayek.
Okay, question: Have any of you guys seen From Dusk Till Dawn?
A long time ago.
You remember the Queen Vampire?
I'm sorry, I don't. Oh yes. I'm thinking of Queen of the Dam. No, I don't. I'm sorry. I thought of Queen of the Dam.
You have a crush on a 54-year-old?
Bruh, she still looks like she's in her mid-30s, early.
Oh, I know,
40s.
yeah, I know who you're talking about.
My God, Salma Hayek is so effing funny in this. She had comedy potential in the first one, but it is broken out, unloose throughout the entirety of this movie. She's
known best for her other roles in movies, but she's probably most recognizable for someone who doesn't know her name by Adam Sandler's wife in Grown Ups.
Yeah. I love Grown Ups, bro. I was just about to talk about that movie.
Sorry to interrupt.
But no, this movie is so effing funny. And listen, it's not just the fact that this movie is just all about jokes. Okay. This movie, unlike Fast and Furious 9, has a great blend of comedy and action, and it works.
Okay, and it works perfectly. It mashes.
Magnificently.
It's a nice, clean PB&J, and not a messy one.
No. The comedy and the action flows through and through. It's like reading a good book. You can't put it down. And I tell you what, Ryan Reynolds,
What's in my quality?
He is so uniquely awesome in this movie. The worst things happen. I swear to you, he gets the worst end of the stick throughout the entirety of the movie. But the way he sells it is absolutely magnificent. And Samuel L. Jackson, my God, this dude gets better and better with age, especially with his comedy. Because I tell you what, Salma Hayek and him were born to be on screen together. These two have such a unique chemistry, especially with the raunchy sex stuff. My God, this movie will have you bugging out laughing for hours. I kid you not. As soon as I left the movie, even on the way home, I was just dying of laughter. And I tell you what, who's sneaky good in this movie? Antonio Banderas. He plays the main.
What does he play in? Who's in?
Antonio Banderas. Oh, come on.
Alrighty.
You have to know who Antonio Banderas is.
My bad, bro. I'm bad with actors' names. Oh, yeah, him. Okay.
Yeah.
Spy Kids.
Who?
Yeah.
Zorro. Right? Was he Zorro? Was that Zorro? But anyway, besides the point, continue, CJ.
I don't know. I haven't seen Spy Kids in 15 years or so.
I haven't seen Spy Kids ever.
Bruh. But anyways, Antonio Banderas, he plays the main villain in the main villain role. And he's not on screen a lot. It's mainly just Salma Hayek, Ryan Reynolds, and Samuel L. Jackson. But the parts where he is in the movie, the scenes that he is in, he is terrific. He nearly steals this whole movie. But my number one scene stealer, and it's not a spoiler because he's in the trailers. Fucking Morgan Freeman. Fucking Morgan Freeman. He's only in the movie for 5 minutes. He absolutely crushes it in pretty much everything that he said. And I tell you what, for a man that's pushing 90, I am shocked by the way that he moved throughout the action scenes. Because again, I don't want to give away what his actual role is, but towards the climax of this movie, he has a big action scene with one of the stars in this movie, and he nails it. He's
Hell
really,
yes.
honestly, Morgan Freeman is terrific.
I love
in
Morgan
anything
Freeman,
that he
bro.
does.
If Morgan Freeman was like, he could narrate anything, and I'll watch it.
Oh my goodness, and I can't speak enough on this, but the chemistry throughout this entire movie between everyone, Morgan Freeman, Ryan Reynolds, and Samuel L. Jackson, and Salma Hayek, and Antonio Banderas. Everyone in this movie is absolutely fantastic. The comedy is great. The action is brilliant. The actual story itself is good enough. But what this movie sells you on is that Salma Hayek, Ryan Reynolds, and Samuel L. Jackson are all part of this buddy cop movie. Like, it's basically their version of Beverly Hills Cops, and it absolutely nails it in all facets. So on a scale of 1 to 10, overall, as a comedy, this is a bona fide 10. Like, I absolutely laughed my ass off throughout the entirety of the movie, and I'll be honest, including Deadpool, this might be the funniest I've ever seen Ryan Reynolds. This might be the funniest I've ever seen him. And Salma Hayek, listen, she could curse me out in Spanish for 24 hours and I would still love her. Like, she is so fucking sexy and funny at the same time.
Is CJ desperate?
Bruh. Like I said, I've had a crush on Salma Hayek ever since From Dusk Till Dawn. She absolutely crushes this movie. She really does. At this point now, I only want to see her do action comedy stuff, because she was born to do stuff like this. So overall, as a comedy, it's
Zion, you're muted. Zion, you're muted.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
You're good.
Ain't she like? Here, let me check real fast. Continue, CJ.
She's like 93.
No, she acted in a movie that she was really good at. I think it's Savages. It might be Savages. She was excellent in Savages. Oh, let me look it up.
I don't know if I've ever seen Savages.
I don't think it was her. Yeah, 2012 Savages. Watch that if you love action.
I've heard of that movie. I just never got around to watching it.
Yeah, she's good in that movie. She's good in a lot of action movies.
But yeah, overall.
Yo, but she's gonna be in the Eternals, my friend.
Yes, she is.
That I won't be watching.
You're gonna see a lot of her.
Yes, she is, and I cannot. I'm so glad that she's getting rid. I'm so glad that now she's
taking the next chapter in her career.
Yeah,
try to finish your sentence.
Doing these blockbusters. Because overall, for the most part, I've only seen her do like constantly in Hispanic movies. Now between this and the Eternals coming up, I'm looking forward to seeing her doing more blockbuster stuff. So
yeah, overall, like big blockbusters.
One solid movie. One fantastic. Two movies this weekend. One was kind of solid. The other one was just ridiculously fun. If you're an action junkie and you ask me which one would I rather recommend, the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard or Fast 9, I highly recommend go see the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. You will laugh your ass off. Especially you, Loki, since you like raunchy comedies, please go see it. It is absolutely fantastic. But now I wish Logan, is your dad coming on?
I'm not sure.
Shoot him
the link just in case. Just so you guys know, Zion is going to be on billboards in 10 years. I have to put that out.
Nah, we can talk movies right now. We don't want to talk about that right now. It's all Gucci. Thank you, though, Logan. I appreciate it.
But on a side note, track, Logan, I have watched a couple of your hype videos that I've been catching up on. Bro, I'm getting goosebumps every time I watch another Giants hype video.
Let's get it.
Like me and Logan had talked about this about a month ago, maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I always
Mhm.
feel the Giants are at their best when we're the underdog, and that's the
Absolutely
thing.
right.
And that's the thing that drew me as being a Giants fan was the fact that the Giants are always the underdog. Like,
Mhm.
even though we're a historically great franchise, it always seems the fact that the Giants seem to be underdogs. We never get as much clamor as the Steelers or the Packers
I think I
or
was.
or Dallas or even the 49ers. Yet we've had just as much historical success as they
Success.
have, yet we
Facts.
always seem to be looked at as the underdog.
Facts.
And one of the things that really frustrates me, especially about the media, how is that every time the Giants hire a new coach, it's always pointed out the fact, you're the biggest media conglomerate in the world, and you hired so and so. I'm like, excuse me, when had the Giants ever hire a big time head coach? Was Bill Parcells some big shot before we hired him to be our Giants coach? No. Was Tom Coughlin outside of people in Jacksonville? Who the hell knew about Tom Coughlin before he
Facts on
became the
that.
Giants? No one. You know, we've hired all these offensive coordinators to be our head coach, and they fail miserably. Now we have a coach that's the polar opposite, someone that's going to instill pride, integrity, and respect back into the Giants organization. And the only thing that I really hear about Joe Judge is that, oh, he overreacted to the Eagles debacle. I'm like, you know what? You guys can go ahead and keep sleeping on us. We're at our best when we're the underdogs. Keep picking Washington, keep picking Dallas to finish ahead of us in the NFC East. The only team in this division that I really respect is Washington. And I think we're very evenly matched, and we've always seemed to have their number. So so Giant season can't come fast enough, and I'm just ready for us to shock the world at this point. 11 wins, book it.
12 bucket.
Big facts. Let's get it.
Mm-hmm. But now we're heading towards our main portion of the video. This has kind of been something that I have been really delving on, really for the last couple of years.
I got your
Honestly,
answer. Don't even worry about it. Continue. The decade.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, if you know me as a content creator, or if you know me as um just as a movie fan, you know that horror is my niche. I have been a horror movie buff pretty much since at the age of 5. One of the first movies that I grew up watching was Jaws, and it freaked the living hell out of me for 6 years. When I was in high school, whenever me and my friends used to talk movies, it was primarily about horror movies. Before I got into comic book movies, before I even animated movies, I am a diehard horror nerd. And so, over the last number of years, as I posted my favorite modern horror movies a couple of months ago, I
Mhm.
really started to sit back and started to think, man, this has been a strong decade for horror, really. Like, it's really been neat seeing horror movies have like this renaissance. And so, as I started delving into more classic films, I figured, you know what? Let's do something interesting, something that I haven't really seen any other content creator do.
Go get it.
Let's 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 rank, or let me rank what I think are the strongest eras for horror films. Now I'm not going to include the 19 and I'm not going to include movies from the 1920s to the 50s, okay? So there's not going to be any mention of Nosferatu, no Dracula. no Frankenstein, no the original Wolfman, none of them. Okay, we are strictly talking movies from the 60s, which was really the decade that really kind of put horror on the map till now. And so I figured between the 60s and the 2010s, because we only have a small sample size for the 2020s, let me rank what I think are the greatest decades for horror movies from the 60s to the 2010s. Fellas, are you ready to hear my rankings?
Yes,
I'm
sir.
down.
All right. The cream of the crop, in my opinion, not just
Is this in order for top to last?
Yeah. From top to what I think is the worst. Starting out to what I think is the cream of the crop, the goat of goats. It is the Michael Jordan of horror decades, the 1970s. When you just
Oh.
the
The 80s is the Michael Jordan.
80s is the Michael Jordan, but I'll let you finish.
The amount of
Agree
classics,
to disagree.
the amount of classics in the 1970s is astronomical.
The amount of classics that actually lasted from the 1980s is amazing.
In one of my upcoming videos, and I'm probably gonna get ready to do this as we end the summer season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be doing my list on my top 10 horror movies of all time.
Gotcha.
Five, legitimately half of the movies in my top 10 all came out in the 70s.
But that's your list. That's not.
Bro,
that's his list, yeah, that's right.
But now, to be fair, listen, all lists is subjective. Film is subjective. Obviously, opinions are subjective. But you cannot deny the amount of all-time classics that came out in just the 70s alone. You have The Exorcist. You have The Exorcist. You have Alien. You have Jaws. You have Halloween. The Omen.
Share the screen. List of horror films, and just keep on talking. I'm just gonna show this.
The amount of iconic horror movies in the 70s is just ridiculous. Like I said, you have The Exorcist. You have Halloween. You have The Omen. You have Jaws, you have Alien, you have Carrie, Children of Carrie, Dawn of the Dead. So many ridiculous, so many all-time classics just in the 70s alone. As much as I love the 80s, and it is a close battle between the 70s and the 80s.
Close.
But in terms of respect, the holy grail has got to go to the 70s. Just over the fact that if you were to ask most horror fans, what's the greatest slasher movie of all time? Halloween. Came out in the 70s. What's
Scream?
No.
Scream.
No. What's the scariest movie of all time? The Exorcist came out in the 70s.
That is not the scariest movie of all time, buddy.
He's just talking to this avid. Continue.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not talking. He's talking to the whole. If you was to take 100 people and there was to vote, that's what he's talking to. Now you could.
What horror movie put the emphasis on the word blockbuster? And this is no argument. This was the first official blockbuster. Jaws.
I don't think of Jaws as a horror movie.
It was a horror movie at the time because when you watch it now, you know, you're so used to seeing CGI, Logan, that your eyes adapted already to the world. Yeah. Back in the day, when you know, like you've seen all the movies, you know what I'm saying? It was like a shock to everybody seeing that kind of shit.
Yeah, and not only about what do most people say is the greatest science fiction horror movie of all time? Aliens. Which is a massive.
That's a good one because honestly, I forgot about the Exorcism and Aliens. Not that I forgot about the Exorcism and Aliens. I just ranked and the only reason why I get you with Halloween and Jason, but the thing is, in the 80s they had more movies. Like I get it. It started with Jason and it's the first movies was in the endings of the 70s, but at the end of the day, they carried through the 80s, you know?
The 70s brought respect to the horror brought respect to the horror genre. The 60s laid the platform, but the 70s just kind of went poof and blew it and blew it up to the stratosphere. And I didn't even mention movies like Carrie, Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so The Omen.
Yeah, they all came out in the 70s?
Yeah.
Dang, I believe you. I know I'm going to look it up. Damn, good. I forgot about that too.
Like what? Yeah, like I can.
Okay, because I was telling. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was telling your streamers when you was on your business call with your mom, like I was telling them, like, yo, I'm not a big avid horror fan, but best believe I watched like most of the old stuff, and based on what I watched, like I was gonna look at the 2000s because there's so much good films in 2000s, but honestly, I totally neglected the 1970s but you made so much good points because if you don't mind, I guess I'll go. If you look at the 1980s, those two movies that started in the 70s that you just talked about with Halloween and Jason, they carried through the 80s.
Well, no.
With 2, 3, and 4.
The original Friday the 13th did come out in the 80s, but
in the 80s, okay, but Halloween, the Halloween series, thank you, CJ. The Halloween series carried through the 80s. If you look at movies like I'm mentioning these because I watched it. If you look at movies like those, and then you look at Freddy, you look at The Shining. You look at Stephen King's The Shining. You look at Chucky. Chucky was invented in. I guess I'm using the same thing that you did, but you look at the first Chucky film. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I just said they carried through the 80s and Chucky's carried through the 90s. But hey, I'm gonna add it anyway. The story of Chucky. And like like I said, my horror film has not been the best. Leprechaun, I think, came out in the 90s. I think Jeepers Creepers was in the 90s and stuff like that. I don't know when Children of the Corn came out. I don't know when Faces of Death came out. But
the original Children of the Corn did come out in the 80s.
Okay, so you can add that to the list. I know the Poltergeist came out in the 90s, if I'm not correct. 80s, the Poltergeist, add that to the list. The Exorcism, I believe there was a sequel or something in the 80s. It carried through.
Yeah, well, the
it started.
The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, did come out in the 80s, but I want to say the last one, the one that takes place before the first Exorcist, I want to say that came out in the late 80s.
Got you. So like
maybe early 90s.
And I just mentioned a few, and I'm gonna toss it to Logan since you agreed with me on this topic because my knowledge on horror ain't the best, and I'm not trying to front. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna mention the movies I remember watching and I remember getting kind of scared of at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't born in the 80s, guys. I was born in the 90s, but I'm just saying, like, when I watched it later on in life, I wasn't scared, but I had to sit down and watch all the Freddys. Like, it's a must. It's, you have to sit down and watch all the Jasons. You don't really have to sit down and watch the Chucky's, but, there's so much Halloween. You gotta sit down and you have to get through Halloween.
The thing about the Child's Play series is that
they're horrible.
Stop it. That's not this thing. The thing about the Child's Play series.
Didn't the Predators come out in the 80s?
Yeah.
That's a horror film in a way.
Yeah, but to me, the Predator is more science fiction.
That's more science action. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I guess you're right. But that's exactly what Alien is. So if you're adding Alien, I'm adding Predator. Agree to disagree. Let's shake.
Alien.
The first Alien was horror. I feel you though.
Alien is your classic mashup of science fiction horror, whereas Aliens is more science fiction action.
But tell me now, if you was in the woods, all right, and you just went there to go save a base or help some people, right? They basically sent you there, right? And now your whole platoon around you is getting slaughtered by this invisible thing in the tree.
No,
that's horror. That's scary, man.
It definitely has horror elements. If you want to call Predator science fiction suspense, I'll give you that. But because
you take off that helmet, that's a monster.
No, that's absolutely. And I'll even go as far as to say Alien and Predator are probably my two favorite Aliens in terms of a franchise. But that, as a matter of fact, as
Sorry,
we
just trying to
talk
fix the mic.
about
Fix the camera.
Alien, Predator, and the next movie that I'm talking about, it's leading me right on to this is a these next 2 decades for me are insanely close. It really is. I mean, if you're just talking raw numbers, I would say the 80s is better than the 60s. I would agree to that because,
Absolutely.
again, going back to my top 10, which I will be doing a video on there probably as soon as the summer is over, as we get into fall season. But in my top 10, greatest horror
Wait, hold
movies
on.
of all time.
Hellraiser.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Didn't Hellraiser come out in the 80s?
Excuse me?
Didn't Hellraiser come out in the 80s?
I was just about to say, hell, there was a boatload of slasher stuff that came out in the 80s. But when like I said, when I do my top 10 greatest horror movies of all time, in terms of raw numbers, like I said, five of my top 10 came out in the 70s. 3 of my favorite horror movies came out in the 80s. You look at The Shining, which is my number 1. You look at Nightmare on Elm Street, which is borderline top 5. And when you have what I consider the greatest science fiction horror movie of all time, it's not Alien, it's not Predator, it's John Carpenter's The Thing. The Thing, I think, is The Thing, I think is an absolute masterpiece of a horror movie. It really is. I mean, it combines everything that I love about horror. Combines great suspense, great character work, and most importantly, isolation. The feeling of just being trapped somewhere with this unknown lurking in the background is terrifying. I don't care what it is, whether it's an intruder, a stranger in the house.
Yeah, I just have a joke real fast. Don't get mad. But you know what you just described?
What's that?
The Predator.
Like I said,
Continue.
At least with Predator, it's in the.
You don't have to defend. I was joking. You can continue with the Thing.
But not a lot. So The Thing, it mixes up everything that I love about horror movies. You got great characters, check. Great writing, check. Great cinematography, check. Great directing, check. Everything that I love about just a great movie is in The Thing. And when you have the unbelievable performance of Kurt Russell in this movie, I just rewatched The Thing like a couple of days ago, and I dare to do it on an empty stomach. I dare watch this movie on an empty stomach, and I kid you not, some of the prosthetics in this movie, it's almost 40 years old, and they still look better than 90% of the visual effects we see today. It's insane how stupid good this movie is. Haven't said all that. And it breaks my heart to do this, as much as I love the 80s. Especially when you look at the broad number of great horror movies in the 80s. You have The Shining, you have The Thing,
forgot the Evil Dead.
You have Evil Dead, you have Poltergeist, you have Hellraiser,
Psycho, I guess. I don't know. Now I'm just reading shit I don't even know.
There are so many great horror movies of the 80s. But the reason why I went with the 60s is because the 60s brought...
Wait, you went with the 60s over the 80s?
I had to, and here's why. I had to, and here's why.
Wow.
Here's why. And I'm going to give a small spoiler on my top 10. Now granted, only 2 horror movies in my top 10 came out in the 60s.
I can't even name 5 movies that came out in the 60s that's horror.
But
Night of the Living Dead, maybe?
See, here's the thing. Both of them are in my top 5. You look at...
See, then that's bias. That's bias.
Well, there's a whole set. Again, let me finish. You have Night of the Living Dead, which brought zombies to the forefront.
But it's not biased because it's your opinion. Sorry.
But no, well, okay, when you agree, you have
Because when you say best decade, if you survey 100 people, okay, tell me not 80 of those people is gonna put the 80s over the 60s.
Honestly, I don't know.
I'll let you finish. My bad for always interrupting, bro.
No,
Logan's awfully quiet today. I thought he was the. I don't want. He's the horror fan. Come on, Logan, talk.
Logan is a horror.
Be respectful, bro. But you guys
he's more into the modern stuff. I feel like once we get into my 4th place finish, then I feel like Logan is gonna want to butt in. But the reason why I had the 60s ahead of the 80s is because the 60s to me it basically laid the groundwork for horror movies to came to be. There won't be. You talk about Freddy, you talk about Jason, you talk about Chucky. There wasn't be any of them if it wasn't for Psycho.
All right, let me stop you right there. I understand.
None of them would exist if it wasn't for Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. That not only put the slasher genre on the map, that put horror really on the map. Before anyone has even seen Psycho, everyone knows that the shower scene, people being afraid to take a shower. You go back to people who lived in both eras, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. A lot of people would say those were the prime years for horror, especially when you look at Psycho, Night of the Living Dead, Rosemary's Baby, as well as The Birds. You and I both love Jaws. There won't be Jaws if it wasn't for The Birds.
True.
You and I both love Freddy, Jason, and Michael. There won't be a Jason or Michael without Norman Bates.
The thing I was going to stop you about is I understand your point you're trying to make, but and you're totally 100% right. If that's your opinion, no one can say nothing. I'm not going to rebuttal. But if you survey 100 people, right? If you think about it, the late 70s, and this is just a comparison, the late 70s and the 80s godfathered rap, into what it became in the 90s. But the best decade in rap is arguably the 90s. So it's kind of like I get the Godfathers. We always want to remember the roots and stuff, but from that, I get it comes better things. So I totally understand your thinking behind it. But in rap, it's like I understand the 70s and the 80s. They're hot. Don't get me wrong. But Pac and Big and the Easy is
exploded.
Stop it. You know what I'm saying?
Biggie, Tupac, Dr. Dre.
Exactly. 60s. The 60s was hot. The 60s was hot. But tell me the 80s didn't explode.
The 80s, I will agree that the 80s definitely exploded. But see, here's my counter argument. With the explosiveness of the 80s, did come a lot of crap in the 80s. Like, there were a lot of bad horror sequels.
Pros and cons. Don't only weigh the pros, weigh the cons. Good point.
The 80s, come on.
Good point.
Come on, man. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Not only the mainstream. Think about all the trash movies that, like, I'm not a horror fan, but I was just looking at some, some movies I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is this?
The 6, now if we're gonna go by popularity, if we're gonna go by upside, yes, the 80s does outweigh the 60s, but in terms of respect, find me a more respected horror movie than Psycho. Find me a more respected horror movie than Psycho. It's hard. And you're really digging for something. And I will also argue that if it wasn't for guys like Hitchcock, you wouldn't get Kubrick, who directed The Shining. You wouldn't get Wes Craven, who directed Nightmare on Elm Street. So, again, I entirely respect your opinion on the 80s. And believe me, I love the 80s. So, my favorite horror movie of all time, The Shining, came out in the 80s. So that should put it ahead of it.
Like you said, it was an argument to yourself, and it was real close. Yeah.
Yes,
I respect your opinion, bro. Like, I know you just said it to me, so I'm not trying to kiss your ass and say it back, but I like the thought process and everything, because I was over here just looking at the pros and not just tossing the cons. Because what the cons? Let's just look at the 80, and I'm like, well, you didn't make a good point.
If you're gonna tell me that Rosemary's Baby is the worst 60s horror movie, then clearly your decade is strong. Because like I said, Psycho, all-time great. Night of the Living Dead, all-time great. Rosemary's Baby, all-time great. The Birds, all-time great. The Haunting, probably the worst horror movie of that decade, is still remarkably good.
I've never seen Psycho.
You're young. I didn't see Psycho until like 3 years ago.
I have to admit, I know what movie you're talking about because I Wikipedia'd it right now, but I never seen Psycho.
Well, that's fine. You guys are still relatively young. And again, I know horror isn't your main niche. It's more so mine, Corey's, and Logan's. But Corey is way too young to be seeing Psycho. And it's not.
Logan is way too young to be seeing Psycho.
And it's probably not even within his niche. Now, here's where we get into a little bit more modern.
If I can watch American Pie, I can watch Psycho, buddy.
No comment. But now we can. But now we're.
Let's go get it, Logan. That's funny.
Now that we're past the decades which neither of us were alive in, now we could go into this era of decade, and I'm talking about the 2010s.
Let's get it, and I'm gonna.
This decade.
Can I take a 2-minute break, CJ?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you're the best. You guys hold it down. I know you guys can. Everybody watching, hit that sub button. Make sure you like the video. Sub to everybody here. CJ also has another channel. You can add CJ Talks Sports. So make sure you go sub there too. Sub to Logan's Giant Zone. They'll hold you down. Thank you, CJ. I'll be back.
All right. See you real quick. Yeah. Now, Logan, now that it's just you and me, I feel as though this decade is obviously your strong suit because you literally grew up in this decade. You've probably seen most of these movies that I'm talking about. So let's just delve right into the 2010s. This has been, like I said, a renaissance for horror movies. And when I list some of my 15 favorite horror movies the last 20 years, most of them pretty much all of them has come out in this decade. Just give me I'm just going to give you a couple of minor ones that I know you enjoyed. It Chapter 1, which I am watching right now.
Don't watch It Chapter 2.
It Chapter 2 was all right. It's
ass. Sorry.
You look at Halloween, the new one. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if you've seen this movie because it's a bit of a smaller one. But no, as a matter of fact, I think you have seen it because you and I believe, have talked about it. The Babadook.
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen the Babadook yet? Oh my goodness. Well, okay. Talking about stuff that's more modern. The Conjuring.
There's something about it's a horror movie you gotta watch. There's something about Mary.
It's
not a horror movie, bro. It's a comedy.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Like, that's more of a comedy than anything else.
It's not a horror, bro. It's a story about a dude who tracks down this girl.
Oh my goodness. But again, before we keep it going, Logan, is your dad coming on or not today? Because
no.
I did drop. No. Oh, he's too busy at work today.
No, he's painting.
Oh my goodness! Wow. But guys, as a matter of fact, as we're getting ready to close up shop pretty soon.
By the way, real quick, stay in the backstage. Me and Zion have a story to tell you.
Oh Lord. Okay, so I'm gonna
good one.
I'm gonna list 10 of my favorite horror movies, and you tell me have you seen it or not.
Yes.
The Conjuring.
Yes.
It.
Yes.
Dr. Sleep.
No.
Get Out.
No.
Insidious.
Yes.
Halloween.
Yes.
Hereditary.
No. No one in my family has seen that movie.
Wow. Okay. Sinister. You've yet to see Sinister?
You haven't seen Back to the Future and you call yourself CJ Talks Movies.
Touche. Touche. I'm just about to watch Back to. I'm just getting ready to watch Back to the Future. Probably sometime this weekend, bro. Okay. I still got plenty more. Oculus.
What?
Oculus.
No, I've never seen.
The Witch. Moving on.
You haven't seen Back to the Future and you call yourself CJ Talks Movies.
You haven't, bruh.
I'm a sports channel. You're a movie channel and you haven't seen one of the greatest movies of all time.
Bruh.
There, buddy.
Bruh, you call yourself a horror fan, and you've yet to.
I'm a casual movie fan.
Oh my goodness, Lord have mercy. You did say you've seen Halloween though, right?
The 2018 one.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what? Okay, you've seen obviously the big blockbuster type. You've seen It, which is the highest grossing horror film.
I saw It in the theater.
Huh?
I saw It in the movie theater.
Yeah. Like I said, you've seen It, which is the highest grossing horror movie of all time. You've seen Halloween, which is in the top 10. You have yet to see Get Out. How? I have no idea.
My family was watching it in the same room as me, but I decided to watch YouTube instead.
Of course. Typical 13-year-old. But yeah.
At least I wasn't watching Skinamax at my brother when I was 13.
Yeah, say that to your left hand there. But yes, like I said before, I was so rudely interrupted. The 2010s was basically just a resurgence for the horror genre. From blockbuster hits, critically acclaimed movies, star maker performances out of directors. This decade has just been ridiculously fun. So many good stuff in terms of horror movies, but it's very similar to the 80s. A whole lot of junk. A whole lot of Bye Man's, Truth or Dares, Ouija, Annabelle the Nun, so many other stupid, outrageous horror movies as well as that decade.
I'm right-handed.
So, unfortunately, even as great as this decade has been, much like the 80s, there's been a lot of crap. A whole lot of.
I've never seen Ouija.
Good. Don't. It will be the worst 2 hours of your life.
I've seen The Nun. Don't watch it.
Have you ever seen Annabelle?
Yeah. I've seen every Conjuring universe movie.
Like I said, a whole lot of junk. A question. Have you ever seen Bye Man?
No.
Have you ever seen Rings?
No.
Have you ever seen Truth or Dare?
No.
Now you say you've never seen Ouija before. Good.
No. Put Zion back on. What happened to Zion?
He said he had to dip for a few minutes.
Oh.
Yeah. But again, man, like this decade has been incredibly strong, but it's also had its weak points, and just overall, it just doesn't compare to the golden age for horror movies. Like, we could all agree that the 60s, 70s, and 80s was horror at its peak, but as strong.
The 90s was goated though.
Stop it. Once upon a time, I thought the 90s was completely overrated. As far as horror movies goes, because really, there was really only one great one. For the most part, me being a fan, I really always thought that there was only one great horror movie of the 90s.
Have you watched The Seventh Day yet?
Not yet, but I promise I will probably watch it tonight after the fireworks.
What time do the fireworks even start?
They generally start like around 8 or so. Usually like around 8:30 or so. But yes, but now to finish it off, I got the 90s as the fourth. I got the 90s as the fifth best, and the 2000s as the worst decade. Just the 90s to me, it had a lot of the same junk of the 80s, but it did kind of start the revamped version of throughout the 2010s. Like really, when you look at the 90s, it's really pictured by three great horror movies. You look at Scream, which is a classic. You have Silence of the Lambs, which is phenomenal.
Which I haven't seen. No, I've seen it. I've seen it.
You've seen Silence of the Lambs.
I've seen part of it, most of it though.
You gotta see it from start to finish. It will make your blood curl. And then last but not least,
what did you do me? That dude.
I'll tell you what. Give me a torture porn any day over crap like that. That is one of the most deeply disturbing scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Looking like my sister.
Moving on. But to me, the reason why I put this right above the 2000s is strictly on one movie. I borderline hated this movie for the longest period of time. I thought this movie was overhyped, overrated.
Avengers Endgame.
Moving on.
Logan.
Moving on. I was just talking about the 2000. I had to kick him out.
How come?
Because he's being a little nuisance.
What? You just kicked him out of the stream?
I said Avengers Endgame is overrated as a joke.
Oh, kick him out. Kick him out. Kick him out again. It's a joke. Watch what you say around us, but no,
but no, Zion, as a matter of fact, I wanted to get your take on the 2010s, because to me this has been by far the strongest decade in my opinion since the 80s.
2000s or 2010s?
No, the 2010s.
Yeah.
The 2000s. I hope you don't get mad at me for saying this, but I had that as my worst decade for horror.
Yeah, because like I agree. What do we really get? The Ring, Final Destination.
You have some good horror movies of that decade. Like you said, The Ring is fantastic. Final Destination,
We got Saw.
Saw is a great one. But see, here's the thing.
We got Left 4 Dead. Not Left 4 Dead. Sorry, that's a video game. That's a bomb video game, by the way. We got Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn.
See, here's the thing. There are some really solid horror movies in this decade. But there's not, and unfortunately, I hate to compare it in terms of the previous decades. The 2000s, there's not a Psycho in this decade. There's not an Exorcist in this decade. There's not a Shining in this decade. I don't even think there's a movie in this decade that's as good as Scream, if I'm being honest.
Stupid mic, stupid camera. You could add it up there. It's not as prestigious, but you could add Saw up there and Final Destination.
Saw and Final Destination are really good, but
they're not groundbreaking. Saw was groundbreaking at the time, though. You gotta admit,
Saw was groundbreaking for its time. But my biggest, I guess, critique, because I love Saw, but unfortunately, it didn't get the same acclaim, the same critically acclaimed as, like I said, a Psycho, as a Night of the Living Dead, as a Halloween, as a Shining. Like, those are horror movies that you think instantly when you think of classics. I think Saw fits in the mold of a modern classic that is criminally underrated, but not something that I would talk about like, oh, what are your list of your 10 greatest horror movies of all time? Saw is not going to
it's not going to come
up. Saw wouldn't even be an honorable mention. Like
it's horror, but it's mostly suspense, you know?
Yeah, but also what? Also
thriller?
No. It's a
torture porn.
No. I
It's
wouldn't call
torture,
Saw the original Saw a
suspense,
torture porn
thriller,
at all.
horror.
I mean, yeah, does it have torture elements? But really, they don't show a whole lot in the movie. They really don't.
True.
And that twist ending, my God.
You know what? I agree with you because I have to say, we actually, if you look at the 2010s, and I haven't done that much research on it right now, but if you look at it, like Saw movies, yeah, it started in 2007,
No, Saw,
but then
the original Saw came out, I want to say 2004.
2000, oh, it was, yeah, 2003. Well, anyways, yeah, never
early
mind, because I'm
2000.
thinking like, no, yeah, because Saw was wrapped up by 2010s. They only had 2 movies in the, yeah, Saw would be considered 2000. Never mind.
Yeah, but like I said, there are some
Now
good
think of
horror movies in this.
2010s. I pulled it up, but I'm not.
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. I'm yet to watch The Nun, like half of it.
The Nun is horrible.
Oh, thank God. I'm like, what is this movie? I try to watch it in order. I'm like, I'm going to marathon The Conjuring. All right, what does it say to do? Start with The Nun. And I'm like, I'm bored. I'm going to turn this off.
No.
Okay, so how do I watch The Conjuring? Do I start with Annabelle?
No.
Creation?
No, start with The Conjuring.
No, I would start with Annabelle Creation first.
So just delete The Nun and go with the same list I was going with.
Yeah, go first. I go into Annabelle Creation. Because that movie is really solid. That movie is a lot of fun and very scary. Then I would skip Annabelle. I would skip Annabelle entirely because it's basically just a mindless cash grab. Then I go into The Conjuring 2. Then I go into The Conjuring, the original Conjuring. Then I go into Annabelle Comes Home, the sequel to.
That movie was bad.
You didn't like Annabelle? You didn't like Annabelle Comes Home?
So Logan, you kind of saying like just watch The Conjuring 1, 2, and 3?
No, the order that you have to go on. If you want to do this chronologically and correct.
That's what I was doing, and I started with The Nun, and the next one is Annabelle Creation.
Yeah, you have to go The Nun, Annabelle Creation, The Conjuring.
Remember, Annabelle takes place before the
Annabelle before The Conjuring. That's what the list said to do.
Okay, then just follow the list.
Follow the list. Okay, so is it worth watching Annabelle? Like the thing is, like when I watch Harry Potter, like you gotta watch it in order. You're gonna miss something. This is just 2 different. Like what is it? I guess I'll watch it and I'll find out more. I don't want to get ruined, but I guess just the spirit. I don't know what a doll has to do with a hanging lady on the tree. You know what I'm saying?
No, the thing is, the demon in Annabelle carries over to the whole universe.
Yeah.
Oh, so the demon from The Nun.
No, not the Nun. There are 3 different demons.
So why the hell is it telling me to watch The Nun?
Because The Nun is featured in other movies.
Yeah.
It's a side quest.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The original.
It's a side quest.
The original Conjuring movie is, I still think, the best one.
What's up, Julius?
The original Conjuring, I think, is still the best of the franchise. Though Annabelle Creation is still very solid. I would then go into, if you are going to watch The Nun, which I highly don't recommend, watch The Conjuring 2 first.
I'm already halfway through The Nun. So I'm probably just going to finish it already. Watch halfway through. I'm just going to might as well just go in order.
Yeah, you might as well just finish it. But I highly recommend The Devil Made Me Do It. That is a very... That
was on that list too. Is that another side quest?
Say that again?
Is that another spinoff?
No. The Conjuring, it's the 3rd of the Conjuring series.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, Conjuring the Devil. Oh, got you. There's this another one. It's like in the middle of anything. It's like the Curse of something.
The Curse of La Llorona.
Is that a spinoff?
Honestly,
it's not important. It's not important.
It's a side quest.
If you want to watch it, I would go ahead, but there's a reason why I haven't seen it either.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, like I said, The Conjuring came out in the 2010s. In my opinion, it's still the best of the decade. You look at Hereditary, which is fantastic. You look at if you love The Shining, you have to see Dr. Sleep. You have to see Dr. Sleep. It is a must watch if you're just a horror fan. Period.
I'm yet to see Dr. Sleep.
It is so stupidly good. I cannot. It was my number one movie of that year, 2019, I believe.
I heard it was bad.
No, it's not. People, the only people that say that, the only people that dislike the movie is because they just want horror movies with a bunch of stupid jump scares. If you love pure isolation horror with great character work, watch Doctor Sleep. It will blow your mind. It's so effing good. But even smaller movies like The Babadook, Hereditary, uh, freaking Oculus, Sinister.
Devil. The elevator movie, Devil.
Yes, I've seen The Devil, and it's
Oh
crap.
yeah, Joyous Nick's 30 Randall brought up a good point. Watch The Lighthouse.
Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse, another good one.
I love black and white movies.
The Lighthouse, another really good one. Just such a strong overall decade. You can legitimately list 15 to 20 movies in this decade that have been absolutely magnificent. And if you
And that's where my horror kind of goes out the way. I've kind of been absent, so I would need you guys to come up with a list for me.
Oh, I got you. I got you covered.
I got you, cuz.
I got you covered, my friend. But much like the 80s, there's a lot of crap. There's a lot of Annabelle, which is
like
garbage.
the devil. The devil is crap.
The devil, which is horrendously bad. The Nun, freaking abysmal.
Wait, when did 13 Ghosts come out?
90s. Also came out of the 90s.
Ooh, the 13 Ghosts was phenomenal. And did you talk about the? I'll let you go. Sorry.
No, but like I said, as
The
much
Sixth Sense.
Another great one. But see, to me, I don't view The Sixth Sense as a horror movie. I view it as more of a supernatural thriller.
Sure.
See, for me, there's always been a fine
He was
line.
dead the whole time.
There's a fine line between what I consider horror and what I consider a thriller. To me, a thriller is more psychologically. Like The Shining, I count as both. It's a great horror and it's a great thriller. The Exorcist, I count as both. It's a great horror, it's a great thriller. Because I don't find The Sixth Sense scary, I don't put it in the horror category because it definitely gets in your
That's
mind.
True. Yeah,
it's
absolutely
definitely
right.
suspenseful, but it's not necessarily something that's going to give you nightmares. Like The Exorcist gave me nightmares. The Shining gave me nightmares.
Like The
How?
Village, that gave me nightmares. No, I'm joking. Okay, The Village did not give me nightmares.
If Jaws gave me nightmares,
How?
You know what gave me nightmares? I'll tell you this right now, guys. I was so little when I watched this damn movie, and it gave me nightmares. The goddamn Others. I watched it back when I was older. I'm like, why was I scared? I'm like, oh, because when she turned around, I'm like, well, she doesn't. Now that I'm older and watched it back, I'm like, yeah, that's trash. But the Others, I don't know why I was so scared of that. It gave me nightmares.
Logan, you try what? Logan, you're telling me that if you were 4 or 5 years old and didn't have any knowledge of sharks at that age, that you would not be scared to watch Jaws? Of course, yes, you would. Yes, you would.
He can't answer that question because his brain already knows that sharks exist.
At 4 or 5 years old.
Well, his brain right now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like I said, right now.
It's easy to answer as a no because his brain already tells you, like, yeah, that's a short.
Come on.
But in Logan's point, like in your point, I understand you. In Logan's point, he looks at it like just don't go in the water. But in CJ's point, it's like
You're
for 5 years old.
5 years old.
Yeah.
And you have to, and you're still taking baths at
Logan's like nightmares, just don't go in the water. He doesn't say that. I'm just reading his eye contact. I'm reading that.
So if a particular movie is the type to give me nightmares, even if it is psychologically, I'm still going to put it in the horror category. Because The Sixth Sense, it's still a phenomenal movie. It's still brilliant, but I don't consider that to be horror because, and I don't mean this as a negative.
More questions than answers.
Yeah.
Like, it's more like questions, and I want to like this like adventure almost, this like suspense basically.
When CJ, when you're done watching The Seventh Day, I promise you it'll be in your top 10 horror movies of the decade.
I'm gonna watch that sometime tonight or tomorrow, Logan. I'll get on that. And we should all review it. That'll be awesome.
Yes, and again, I highly recommend all 10 of these horror movies. But again, that's pretty much is going to wrap it up, everybody. I did my 5.
Stay in the stream, buddy.
I did my 5 greatest decades for horror. The 70s is the cream of the crop. Then the 60s because of its respect
Seymour made
and
me pee my
longevity.
pants.
Then I had the 80s because
With the comment.
because the 80s really popped in terms of just great horror, great slasher just in general, but still a whole lot of crap. Then I ranked the 2010s just an overall renaissance of the genre. And then I have the 90s and then I have the 2000s. Because really the 2000s has a bunch of good horror movies, but not anything that I would deem classics. Final Destination is really good. Don't consider that a classic. Saw is really good. I consider it to be a modern classic, but not an all-time classic.
You know who else is really good?
What's that?
Alfred Payton.
You know what we're thinking about too. Like I think we're looking at it in the way of Alfred Payton. I think we're looking at it in the way of CJ of we're not including the zombies and vampire movies, bro.
But like I said, all of those came, particularly zombies, all came to be back in the 60s.
That's where you have the 60s high
with Night of the Living Dead. There would be no zombie. There would be no Zombieland. There would be no Dawn of the Dead.
Zombieland.
There would be no Shaun of the Dead without
28 days later.
There would be no 28 Days Later.
Walking Dead. There you
Night
go.
Of the Living Dead.
The Walking Dead. It's not a movie.
There would definitely be no Walking Dead.
It's a statement in the industry of TV shows.
So,
what's Logan at?
But one that I do
Alfred
highly
Payton.
recommend. My favorite.
Jesus, he's on time, huh?
My favorite horror movie of the 2000s. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Zion. It's actually my favorite Halloween movie besides the original Halloween.
Trick or Treat. That's fucking bomb. I knew you was gonna say Trick or Treat. It's so good, right? No, it's not Trick or Treat.
I love Trick or Treat to pieces.
Is that the movie? Is that the movie? Yes, it's so good, right?
Like,
I love that movie. Dude,
Tell me.
I'm not trying to get like this, I'm not
ahead,
trying to get like this. But when she turns into the wolf, like I don't even care. Like I don't even care. Like come here with those eyes. You know what I'm saying?
Julius just made a big point. Train to Busan, another one, another great one. But nah, man, Trick or Treat. I could talk about that movie. I could talk about that movie all day.
Man. I want to go watch that movie now.
I freaking love.
How did you like Cabin in the Woods?
I liked Cabin in the Woods a lot.
I didn't like the ending.
The ending is.
It got too much for me when the hand came out. Like that's just too much.
It's.
Because the thing is, I wish it would have spread out to a franchise. Yeah. Rather than hand coming out like immediately, like, well, that's done. Then what are we gonna do now? You know.
I think the whole point of
it was a goof in a way, huh?
I think the whole point of Cabin in the Woods was to kind of introduce horror to a new light, but still keeping it original. You still have a lot of the same. You still have a lot of the same tropes that you will find in a 70s or 80s horror movie. The hunky dude, the guy that smokes too much pot, the virgin, the mindless slut that just wants to get with guys. You have all of those tropes in this and Cabin in the Woods, but you also get a brand new light of what horror could actually be like. Fun, spontaneous, while still deadly as fuck. And again, that's what I like about Cabin in the Woods. It's very solid. I really like it, but I wouldn't deem that as a classic or even a modern classic.
True that. I feel you on that.
But yeah, that's going to be the end of this video, ladies and gentlemen. Please be sure to like, subscribe, down below. Logan, you are on timeout, my friend, for speaking some nonsense. But in all seriousness, shout out to Logan. Shout out to Logan for helping me out in the stream.
That's a note for the pass rush move.
Shout out to Zion for being such a horror enthusiast. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. I'm going to be reviewing more movies as we get on to the summer season. I will be reviewing Black Widow this Friday, so keep a lookout on that.
Let's go.
Again, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and one more time, I'm going to be I'm really trying to push to 50 subscribers by the end of December. So
if you don't get 50 subscribers for CJ, I will throw Ronnie Lott's finger at you.
Alrighty.
Well, considering he cut off his pinky, I don't know how threatening that may be. But thanks so much for joining, everyone. Again, shout out to both Logan and Zion for helping me out with the stream. And I am out of here.
Alfred
Peace
Payton's
out.
the GOAT. Peace.